All of these bits of paper contain insights from 25 subscribers to my book who I sent copies of the manuscript to. It's a very unusual thing for an author to be able to say, I've done the book, you've funded it already, how about would you just have a look at the manuscript? And that's what I did. And as usual with all of the things in this process, I put something out and I thought no one's going to really want that, no one's going to do anything. So I thought I might get 1 or 2 people who would read the manuscript, and I did get 1 or 2 people, and then I got to 3 and 4 and 7 and 18, and then when it got to 25 I thought I'd better stop, because I can't afford to send out. I mean, it cost a couple of £100 to print and send off all of the copies, which I had bound on a company called lulu.com, which I think is really great because you can upload anything and print it as a book. So I did that and I sent it off, and I got all of this feedback from people. And the thing that I asked, by the way, Claire, if you, or anyone else who's joined, if you want to, while we're live, you can ask me any questions. Don't feel you have to. Some people I know are only going to see this afterwards. So I asked for people to say what they liked about the book and also what they might like more, or different, or better, or whatever. So I was asking for very positive feedback. What do you like? What might you like even more? And so I'm just going to anonymously read back some of the things that some people said. So some people might not have wanted me to say this publicly. So I'm anonymising all of the comments, but I hope that... Oh, look, a heart. That was nice. I don't know what I did there. Thank you. I knocked something over. Maybe you like some more slapstick. Here we go. Some comments. And I'm going to try and give a fair balance of the positive and the things that people wanted. One of them opened with, JP, I loved it, and then went on to say lots of things. So what I tended to do was underline in yellow highlighter the positive things, which turned out to provide me with tons of material for positive quotes for the jacket, book jacket, that kind of thing. And a lot of those did actually go into the book. So the front of the book, which just arrived from the publisher, I've got all these quotes. Oh no, not those ones, hang on, these ones over here. I've got quotes from real reader reviewers who've already bought the book, subscribed to the crowdfunding, and got all of these comments from them and on this page as well. So in a way, lovely, very nice and clever marketing to go online and not online, to go to people for some puffs. But I wasn't only after the puffs. I really wanted to see if there would be some benefit. So whiz on, keep going. What I noticed was the good stuff was obviously very welcome, and then the negative stuff, because in my brain I'm still thinking it's negative, even though I asked them to do it, and it was very constructive. The negative stuff really wasn't negative. It really, really was incredibly useful. So one of these reviewers said, I would have liked to know from the get-go that we were entering a sort of enchanted forest, a sort of specific period of time, so that the anarchy that is experienced and created is within certain walls of time. And so when that happened, I thought, yeah, no, I love that idea of sort of venturing off to a sort of space, a bit like in Midsummer Night's Dream when they go into the forest, that sort of thing. So that was really useful. Then there were more comments. One of them was, I struggled with the first 2 chapters, especially the first, which seemed very slow. So as a result of getting that feedback, I tightened it up, I hope, enough. Another comment was that there was an incident with one of the main characters and some violence, and it said that inclined me to dislike him. So I thought there was something I could do in there to change it. And then there was some really good goalkeeping, like catching where I just made stupid mistakes. So one of them was on some arithmetic, so I changed that. Then there were questions about, so there's a poisoning incident in the book. There were questions about how plausible some of the things that I put in were. Now, me personally, I don't mind books being implausible. I happen to love it in Charles Dickens and Anthony Powell when, oh look, what a surprise, someone just turns up who you need to turn up at that point. I love that. But I understand that some people, plausibility is an issue. So one of the comments here from that same reviewer, I find it very implausible that the Queen in the garden would call for the brandy she had been drinking in someone else's room previously. So the details are creaking at this point. So that was a useful thing to show in my mind. Okay, what have we got? More positive things here. This one was positive and what would you like more? I kept wishing this would be one of those 700-page books, as I like to read longer works. I'm very sorry I can't oblige there, because I just simply wouldn't have the energy or the patience, but I would love to. Next reviewer, someone said, nobody's written about Queen Anne. I hope for an antidote to the Tudor domination of recent years, and seemed to be pleased that that's what happened. The main story was great fun. Seemed to particularly like the idea that the events which happened to writers in the 1700s, Daniel Defoe, Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope, reflected something about what happens to me as a writer struggling with, how do you make a living. So there was some appetite for matching the parallel events in your own life. How am I doing? I've got 8 more minutes, better hurry up. Like the story of the improvisation workshop that you ran and how the book was created. And I also liked the doctored portraits with actors' headshots superimposed. Gave a theatrical feel to the main story, which gave it an extra life. Shakespeare would have liked to write about Queen Anne. Well, that's good. I feel vindicated there then. More loving the book. Someone wanted some of the secondary characters to have more fleshing out, and I didn't do a lot more of that. I would have liked to. I don't think I had enough time. Liking one of the quiet characters turning out to have lots of feedback later. I'm not going to read everything, because there are bits in here that really leapt out. One of them was, I thought this was good because I like the bits that feel a bit. So someone said, in your book, you do have some parts that are really sensitive emotions. The part when Daniel Defoe considers how he has disappointed his wife by failing in business and squandering her dowry. I felt a quality of personal truth from your life story somewhere shining out there, which is what I look for in a great novel. Please put more of you in the book. So, me and Daniel Defoe, are we the same person? Very exciting and interesting proposition. And then there was a really great piece of saving me, which was when someone pointed out that I was rather unkind in the way that I wrote about the Queen. And that's important. And I knew there was a problem with it. I knew there was a problem with the way that I presented the Queen, because it was a bit unkind. And I think when I first wrote it, it was from the point of view of an unkind character. Hello, Lizzie. Nice to see you've joined. Lovely to see you here. I'm going over all of these comments, but obviously not all of them. Trying to point out the areas where there were real crucial savings. And one of them was when I had presented the Queen in a way that seemed to reek of disgust rather than pity. So one of the reviewers said, there is little sympathy or dignity in how you describe her and lay bare her sweating, her rolls of fat, vomiting and need to poo. And that's true, there wasn't much sympathy, and it's because when I wrote it, I was doing it from the point of view of an unkind character. And then I lost that point of view, so it's brilliantly spotted that it just seemed like this odd thing. So I did change that. I changed it in a way that I hope I'll come to in a minute, because someone else mentioned that as a thing. I'm trying to keep an eye on the screen and not ignore you, so that I'm really communicating, but I'm also reading these bits of paper. Someone pointed out, I was rumbled on this, that I didn't really seem to know how many children Daniel Defoe had. You're right. And so I had to go off and work out how many children did he have. Hello. Oh, good. I'm so glad you've joined, because I'm going to tell you something that you just did, Mrs. Hogarth, about my manuscript. This idea, where was I with that? I was talking about the number of children. So I went away, worked out how many children Defoe had, and rewrote it subsequently. There was a tiny theme that popped up here and there with some of my reviewers, which was this idea that some of the chapters felt a bit rushed. As if, perhaps, my reviewers felt I didn't have the confidence to slow down. And I think that's a real journalist's thing. So having been a journalist for years, very aware that if every sentence isn't totally and utterly compelling, and if you don't get on with it very quickly, people will go. And other journalists who've written books have said this same sort of thing, that we need to relax a bit. Lovely comment from someone about Defoe and his wife. He has a very, I'm trying not to give anything away here, no spoilers. He has a conversation with his wife where he makes himself quite vulnerable, and someone wanted to know more and more about that. So I did go out and try and flesh that out. Your own story, or perhaps the story of the book, was fascinating. I love what you said about the conversations that can change anything. That really resonated with me. And then I had some brilliant things, again, talking about what people saw in the book that was like them. And I love this one. I'm in danger of overrunning. I really hope I won't. This was from someone who said, crowdfunding is brilliant. Look, here I am in a small village confined by circumstances, and I can reach out and help in a small way to help someone's dream come true. Hello, Victoria. Lovely to have you here. I exist in reality on state finances. I'm a carer for a family member. I'll skip that next bit. And then it says, so how do I feel proud of my secret world? Even though my financial support is not worth much, to help make someone else's dream come true is fantastic. I soar from reality and smile a big smile. That moved me so much when I got that message. Still does now, actually, reading it again. And then this reviewer said, have I ever been in a situation like Defoe's? Oh God, yes, many times. Hanging on, surviving, almost giving up and crawling back. We all have our stories, splendid to us, glorious, heroic, sad, funny, personal and precious. What a beautiful thing to write in response to my book. The same person said, and this is beautiful honesty, it's so great that people put out reviews that are it's quite a risk to send me their review of the book. And this person said, well, this turned out to be quite a surprise read. Hey, you know what? I said it was going to stop for 15 minutes, but I'm not going to be able to fit it all in. I really think I want to do justice to your review. So if you've got to go after 15 minutes, I'm just going to keep talking, but I totally understand if you've got to go. Thank you. Anyway, it'll be there for 24 hours on Periscope. So this same reviewer said, this turned out to be quite a surprise read, a quirky novel, not at all what I was expecting. I think my preconceived notions made it a bit difficult for me to get into it at the beginning. I read about your dabbling with improvisation at the back of the book, and I had my eureka moment and started to enjoy it and began to get a handle on what you were about and how you were actually challenging the reader as well as challenging yourself as a storyteller. I'm being very honest here. I was really disappointed at the beginning that I couldn't get it. And I was thinking, how can I review a book that someone has spent hours, years over, and tell him I think it's beyond me? My sad mind thinks it's rubbish. In case you misunderstand me, I do not think that now. I think it's quirky, unique, and a book the reader really needs to engage with, a book that's really about the art of storytelling and writing. I really like that. A brave book, she said. Which is nice. Lots of yellow bits that I highlighted, the things that people liked. But I want to come back to some of the things where people said sometimes the history that I bunged in seemed like a kind of didactic addition, which rather stuck out. Not just one person said that, 2 or 3 people said that. So I tried to rub it down, smooth it out. Glad to do it. Who's that? Hello, Victoria. No, I can't hear you munching Maltesers. I'm very glad that you're here. And so I'm going to keep going, Victoria. I'm talking about some of these great reviews. So one of the people who gave me a whole list of numbered suggestions with page numbers, which was incredibly helpful. Really kind of straightforward, down the line, solid, sensible editing suggestions. So for example, when I called someone a minister, the suggestion was, that suggests a low churchman. Swift would have been anti-Catholic, but was also anti-Presbyterian. Perhaps you should call him a priest or a clergyman. So that was a kind of really precise and brilliantly informed edit. Again, I talked about. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm glad you've got twiglets, Claire. Thank you. I'm really enjoying this too, and it makes it so much better to know that you're there listening to this. Thank you. Another point, similar one, very ecclesiastical knowledge here. When I used the term prayer beads, surely she and anyone else then would have called it a rosary, not the rather anthropological term prayer beads. So I changed that. So these are small changes. It's not in any way awkward or embarrassing to a writer to say that they had to change these things. I'm so chuffed that I did that, and I wouldn't have changed it if I hadn't asked people to give me some ideas. So here's another one. This one was, again, there's lots of yellow marks. You can see very positive in the sense of stuff that I could use as promotional quotes. But there are a couple of things that I want to talk about here because it's more interesting to talk about how I could have improved it and how I hope in many cases I did. I would have liked to see a few longer passages of prose in the centre of the novel. The writer is perfectly capable of beautiful prose, but I feel that on this occasion he's made the decision to maintain a choppy style and a brief paragraph in an effort to keep brisk movement through the piece. True, I did. I wanted it to be a thriller and very pacey. It's a choice I understand. It's all too easy to become bogged down by oversharing historical content. but I think he's written well enough and engagingly enough to trust the reader with the odd pause and breath. That's really interesting to know that this is an effect I was having that was like I didn't have the confidence in my own material. Maybe I didn't at times. I don't know. Sometimes I think it was just because I wanted it to be pacey, but maybe that's the way some people will read it. Interesting. There is no wrong. And now this is a really significant change. So I think one of you who's online now wrote this one, but as I mentioned earlier on, I'm anonymising all these comments because I don't know if everyone wanted to be acknowledged. But this was really decisive. I admire your single-mindedness in confining your story to a very brief period of time, less than 48 hours, and filling the envelope with action that is fast-paced and interesting. That's the bit in yellow. And then later on, I'm going to read it in full. If I have a criticism of the novel, it relates to the ending. Not in terms of what happens and who does what, etc. It's an issue of tone. Compare your first chapters to your last. Defoe's disturbed night, creeping around in the dark, finding his clothes, in the garden to retrieve his weapons. Terrible danger hanging over him. It's all closely described with lots of detail, and the reader can see his environment, his movements, imagine being there. Now, contrast this with the ending. I'm not going to tell you what happens, because that would be giving it all away. Defoe's change of circumstances wrapped up in a single paragraph. I think that after all the business of this wrap-up, there should be a change of pace. Show, don't tell. Daniel Defoe in his garden, tending his gooseberry bush, back in his bed, snuggled with his wife, whispering in the dark, talking of the future. So those are very specific suggestions. And you know what? I followed them bloody close. I really totally rewrote the last pages. And so to that person who did that review, I can assure you that I massively rewrote the end of the book. And I don't have any problem acknowledging that. I totally owe the end of the book, or at least the end of the historical novel bit of the book, to one of my reviewers. There you are, I hand it over. And one of the things, it was you, correct. Okay, you flushed yourself out. It was indeed Nicola Carr. And hang on, have I got your name right? I get muddled up with Twitter handles. It was Nicola, wasn't it? Was it your name? Oh God, help. Yes, Nicola, it was you who did that. So well done, Nicola. You read the end of my book more or less. Well, I mean, I tweaked it the way you tweaked it, the way you suggested. Thank you. Well, there were lots of other great suggestions. You know what? I mean, there really were. Another person. So I've already talked about how there was some people thought that I kind of shoved in historical stuff unsmoothly. Other people also asked for more historical detail. And I hope I did a tiny bit more of that. Of course, I didn't have enough time to do a massive rewrite, but I did quite a bit of looking at the manuscript. I can tell you another thing. Unbound were super impressed with the whole concept of engaging with readers in this way. And I think it was an experiment. I have no idea how it was going to work out. I haven't told you that one person just didn't really like the book. I didn't tell you that. Hang on. I'll get to that in a minute. Another request that some of the incidental characters could have been fleshed out more. This was Jenny. Oh, wasn't meant to say, but someone did. Somebody who reviewed the book said that this person would have liked to see more of, for example, Hester van Homrich, who in real life was one of Jonathan Swift's sweethearts. She appears briefly during the ball, and I don't really expand on her character or what happens to her. I would have loved that too, actually. I love her character, and I would like to flesh it out. I intend to do more with the story in this book. I want to turn it into a show, ideally a musical. I haven't actually said that to anyone publicly particularly, have I? Anyway, that's the plan. I want to make a musical of the historical bit. So maybe Hester can have some more room to run around there. And here's another comment. I'm coming towards the end now. Another comment from someone about the speed and the pace. At the end of the book, those of you who've already read the manuscript know there's a fairly lengthy description of how the book was created. More than just a kind of postscript. I'm glad you like the idea of a musical. Thank you. Yeah, I really want to do the musical. I've already started writing some of the songs. So at the end of the book, there's a description of how it worked. And this reviewer says, reading that end bit, the what comes next bit, did help me understand the way that I experienced the writing. It had been a bit like a story told by the most enthusiastic storyteller ever. At times the writing felt quite sudden, not jumpy, but as if someone was running at full pelt, stopping briefly, then running on again at top speed. This person said that this person would have liked occasionally to have a bit more space to breathe. It's really funny that. It's funny to read that comment as an author, because my thought is, well, just put the book down for a sec. Obviously that's not adequate as a response. I don't know quite how it would be more adequate. And I mentioned earlier in this Periscope the idea that someone had raised that I had this rather unkind, cruel even, description of the Queen when she first appears. And another reviewer here gave me lots of suggestions on how I might slightly tweak the presentation of individual characters for a slightly different effect. The description of Anne being dressed is very powerful. You really get a sense of her bulk and all that entails. It's gross. I wouldn't change a word of that, but it would be cool to have a paragraph that followed which provided a sympathetic view of how she became like this. She's not just gross. Maybe something as simple as a reflection on what I used to be like, or what it was like then to get dressed, and on how much she hated being the way she is. This would become a nice little jolt to the reader, as it would make them aware of the prejudice and bias that they formed when they read that previous unkind description. Of course I could be wrong. Maybe she's a complete cow, but I think the overall tone of the book is sympathetic to her, and that would help to round out her character a bit. Maybe something about how she was bored just playing cards every night and didn't have the strength and so on. So what I did after that was, indeed, I did have a comment on that. I think that reviewer maybe suggested elsewhere that I could have a comment on how she hated to look at herself in the mirror, and she found herself disgusting, which I found quite a moving insight into being Anne, and being able to think that yeah, she wasn't how she wished that she had been. And it gave a much kinder quality, and that I totally needed, because I really was undermining my own whole first principle of how, you know, this book is meant to be sympathetic to Anne. I'm going to come to the end now, so you don't have to watch forever. I've got one last review. I think I mentioned a moment ago that not everyone really loved it. So I want to say a bit without in any way attempting to sort of shame either me or the reviewer. I want to explain about how this person was asked to give me some feedback, and it was the last person to come back to me. And so that hesitance and that sort of loitering and not coming forward was already a bit of a sign. And then I got an email saying, "Dear JP, before sending you the brief review I've written, I just want to email you some context. I don't normally do reviews. I'm used to working as an editor, to giving feedback in creative writing workshops. Reviewing is new to me." Then this person explained how we had met each other once before. And that's one of the reasons why this person responded to the request for volunteer reviewers. To be honest, this person says, I'm rather regretting it. I think I'm a lot more comfortable sharing constructive feedback than adopting a judgmental approach. When I read that, I thought, I didn't ask anyone to be judgmental. Maybe it came across that way, so that was unskillful of me. If the review I've written seems to go straight for the jugular, it's because I think it's important to be honest. Reading my own text, it seems to be trying to impress. But it's for your eyes only, if you like. I have no expectation of seeing it on the Unbanned website or anywhere else. In this spirit, if you'd still like me to send it over, of course I will. With kind regards, X. So I got that email, and at first it made me feel a bit shaky and like, oh no, I'm going to be, taken down. Anyway, so shut up. And what I replied was, hello and oh crumbs. I do understand how hard it can be to provide feedback, but I did ask for the feedback in this instance. That word judgmental is a bit heavy. I certainly wouldn't want you to provide feedback without using some kind of judgment, especially if you're somebody who runs creative writing workshops. In the end, your feedback will only be constructive if that's how I decide to use it. If you think it's wise, I promise to read what you send me with one hand clamped over my jugular. Or if you prefer, don't send it. I certainly don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable and regretful. Whatever happens, I'm grateful that you took the time to read it, to write something, and to send this email. And so this reviewer did indeed reply, okay, I'm sending you this, but although I set out to write it like a real review, as if for an audience, I'm not going to send it to anyone else or stick it on a blog. If it would be helpful to discuss it, let me know. If not, not. And then there followed the review thing, which I'm going to try to be very scrupulously careful about. What it felt to me like it was saying what this person had hoped the book would be, not what it was. Anyway, there were some very interesting points in there. The reason why I'm lingering on this is because actually I feel a real affinity with that reviewer, because it takes real guts to put anything out there, anything at all. And it's so easy to hold back and think, no, I'm not going to put something out. No, nobody wants this, no one wants this. It's just the same whether you're putting out a book that you've written for a long time or a review that you think might have a painful impact on someone. And so, we're in the same boat, reviewer person who remains anonymous, you and me. You sent your thing out, and I'm really glad that you did. I'm really glad that you took the opportunity to review my manuscript. I can't really say I'm not even disappointed that you didn't like the book, because other people did, and I can't control what other people are going to make of the book. It's completely in their head, between them and the book. It's not really me anymore. It was me up to the point when I stopped responding and tweaking the things that you people who reviewed this sent me as suggestions. It was always clear that I had the right to follow up on those suggestions or not. It is my book, but it's also so much more than my book, because it really is a joint production. And this is the first book that I've done on that basis. And it's such a relief, because I don't have to feel like I'm responsible for everything. I'm not. I just totally know that lots of other people had a big stake in it. And for that reason, I feel like I can really recommend this. It's a cracking book for those that find it a cracking book. For those that don't, it's not. But I really love it, and I've really been grateful to have your input. I'm not sure which of you who is watching, whether you're people who did do the review. I'm going to stop talking now and ask if there's anything you want to ask, and otherwise I'm just going to probably stop in a second. You can see here I did write down main points, and those are the ones that I took the most time to address. Anything you want to know? You can send me a text thing, or just say no. Thank you very much. Here, cracking book. What's my biggest regret? Oh, that's a good question. You mean about the book, presumably, not about life generally. Would I do it again? Wow. Okay, biggest regret. Biggest regret is, so I'll answer that one first. The biggest regret is that I didn't jump in more wholeheartedly on the crowdfunding process more quickly and just zoom in and whiz it. That's not, it's not a regret. Right now, I don't think I have any regrets. I really, honestly, do not have any regrets. I wrote a lot of the book really long time ago, put it aside, and I don't regret that, because then it was ready when I wanted to start it again. I sent it to publishers when it wasn't ready, and they turned it down, and I don't regret that, because it's much better now. I don't regret sending it out to anyone. I don't regret the way it's been designed. I don't regret anything about this book. I think I've answered that one. And, what was the other one? What would I do differently? Was that the question? Thank you. Thank you. Was the question, what would I do differently? I've forgotten. Anything. Would I ever consider doing another one? Totally improvised book based on learning from this. Totally. Oh yeah, would I do it again? So I'm taking that as a would I crowdfund again? I think I would. So I'm going back to that question from Claire. Would I do it again? And then please, Lizzie, will you remind me the other one, the improvised one? Thank you. So would I do crowdfunding again? I would. Yeah, I definitely would. I think I didn't make it easy for myself, because I was crowdfunding a book that is just nothing like anything I've done before. A historical novel about Queen Anne. What the hell is that? So anyone who was interested in any of the things I've ever written before was not going to be particularly necessarily interested in this. And to a certain extent, I could pull people in by appealing to other things that people know about me, and I have, as you can see, made a massive jamboree of turning this book into a thing all about improvisation and about coaching and about the experience of being a writer. And so by trying to turn it into a touchstone about all those other things, I've tried to make it appeal to my audience, whatever that is. What a self-aggrandizing term. But I think if I did another crowdfunded book, and I do have a couple of ideas in my head that I really think I might start soon, once this is done, it would be easier because it would be more my sort of thing. Now, thank you. I hope that answers the question, Claire. Lizzie, would I do an improvised book? Yes, very much so. In fact, one of the other ones that I might want to crowdfund would be based on conversations. And a good conversation is always improvised. Otherwise, it's just a script. Is that right? Does that answer the question? Thank you, yes. Yay, I love the little dance comment. That was so cool. When you wrote that in the review about doing a little dance, it made me really, really happy. I beamed. Thank you, Lizzie, and thank you, and bye, everyone. I'm going to say that's been way longer than I expected. Half an hour. Thank you so much. I need some lunch. I'm sure you do, even if you've had Maltesers and Twiglets. Bye-bye.